Alright, today I'm doing a little bit of experimentation too on my templates. Because of this cutter, it doesn't really cut on really intricate details. You kind of need to have your letters kind of fat. Any kind of really skinny lines are a little harder for it on this thick material. And then you can see on where there's a hanging center, like on the 8, on the A, on the E, I've had to add these little tags that'll kind of hold that piece together on the template, and then after the sandblasting we can and the painting, we can fill those areas in so like you won't even know that it's there. So I have it loaded into this design space, is kind of the design here. The next step is to hit this make it button up here. That'll bring us to another page where it shows what it looks like on the mat itself. I do have the mat all set up to go up here. I do tend to tape the edges on this thick mylar to get it to hold down really good, and so I'll just hit continue. It'll ask me for choice of materials next. I have my custom 7mm in there, and it looks like it's ready to go. Should have a blinking light up here for loading, so I'll get that lined up in each. So I set it up in my custom settings to cut this 7mm, and one thing you can do is you make one pass, kind of check how well it's cutting. If you want to make another pass, you just have to hit that button again and it'll go another time. And this is now on the third pass. I think that'll do it. I originally had it so it would automatically do 3 passes, but when it would do that, it would do 3 on each letter as it went, and that was causing actually letters and numbers to pop out, kind of get in the way of the cutting. So now it's scoring. Oh, looks like it's done. Alright, so I'm going to take it out, unload. I'll take a look at what it looks like on the bench here. That looks like it came out pretty nice. There's a couple letters I still have to manually pop out, but I still have all of my centers. Yep, that one on the D I got to pop out yet. But good. Now I'm going to put the heat adhesive on it and get it onto the granite for sandblasting. Well, I've got it all on there. I bought one of these hard rollers, and that actually makes it press right down onto the marble. And I don't know if you noticed, but in the in my design and in the cutout, I was missing this center P. I forgot to add a tag to it like I have on these other ones. I was able to find that piece that was hanging loose, and I got it held on there. Hopefully when I do the sandblasting, it'll hang tight. Alright, I'm going to let this cure, and then I'll do the sandblasting. Alright, I had to let it cure for more than 24 hours. I just had other things to do, but it is really stuck on there good. So I think this is going to work out pretty nicely. Okay, that went pretty smoothly. Now I'm just kind of do a close inspection of what happened. I'll just start on the left to the right over here. You can see this tape that I had put on here to hold the template onto the mat. I just kind of didn't take it off, but it was probably a good thing because it had obviously a harder time. You had to break through the sand, had to break through this tape as well as then get access to the mylar, so that actually probably made a shallower etch because of that. So in the future, obviously I got to put enough border around the template, the stencil, to hold to basically keep the tape away from the image itself. But everything else is pretty well in place still, using that 3M Spray 77. I did do 3 passes, as you noticed, mainly trying to go a little deeper each time to see both how well it etched afterwards, but then I wanted to go to the point where I was getting some lifting of some of the template material. So there's started to show up there. I saw this starting to fly up a little bit there, and so some other areas here starting to get a little beat up. The Y or the W here started to lift because it's kind of a, obviously a small piece. I don't know if you noticed, but the P that the center of the P that I did glue in there, that flew off, I think on the first pass. So I didn't glue that on as good as I should have. When I found the missing piece, I just kind of put it in there and kind of pressed it in. So clearly you got to do a thorough inspection of your graph, your artwork, before you cut it out, so that you make sure all of those centers are attached. So now I'm going to take the stencil off and see what it looks like underneath. Okay, that came off pretty nicely with the heat. I don't know how easy it would be to come off without the heat on there, but that definitely helped a lot. And we still got, the basic surface here has got the 3M on there, so we have to get that scraped off with some acetone, and then we'll take a look at that. But the etching actually looks pretty deep, deeper than I did on the last few examples. So that's a good sign. So now I'm going to cut out a stencil using the 631, use it for paint. Alright, I cut the stencil out, put the transfer tape on, and then when I went to put it on the stone, it was extremely difficult to get everything lined up, so I had to cut it into 3 pieces, which is fine, to be able to get things lined up. Because on a large sheet, you kind of start in the center and you work your way across, and even if you're off just slightly, by the time it gets to the edge, it's off quite a bit, and you won't be over top of your etching. So I'm going to try this. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Alright, I got it all positioned here. I also cut out the little tags holding the centers, so when I put the paint in, it'll look like normal. Alright, I got everything in place. What I'm going to do this time, I'm going to first spray 1 pass of clear coat. That'll help seal the edges of the lettering before I put on the multi-coat of the color. Alright, you can definitely tell with 1 light coat of the clear coat that those edges between the stencil and the rock on the edges is nice and sealed up. Alright, now I'm going to do the first coat of color. Well, let that dry. It only really takes a few minutes, and we'll do another coat. Probably 3 coats this time. We'll see. Alright, after 3 quick coats, I took this one corner off just to see what it would look like while it was wet. It obviously smears, so I'm going to let the rest of it cure for like an hour, and then maybe it'll come off clearer on those other ones. Alright, I waited on pulling this one off, and that came off nice and clean. I'm finding as I'm cleaning this up, if I drag the backside of a razor blade, it works much better than scraping forward. The main issue of having to clean things up with that razor blade is these little gaps here, which I actually painted in afterwards, gets scraped back out again. So I'd have to manually repaint them like with the toothpick. So if I do a close inspection, you can see I ended up sandblasting this area over here by accident. This particular segment got thinner and thinner and thinner, so it didn't either take the spray or the sandblast tool out really well, or the paint. It just ended up mostly at the surface, and so that's something to be considered. You got to make sure your lines are thick enough to be able to take the spray gun and then with the paint. But I do like the fact the paint is, and the sandblasting is deeper, and I think you got to give time for this paint to dry before you pull the template off that you use, the stencil. The warranty ended up very nice. There was an E up here that I did fix, and that looks pretty good. You can tell with this particular font, very thin in some areas, so you got to kind of be very cautious about what font you're picking. This is where the inside of the P blew off, so it got roughed up by the sandblasting. So that actually sticks out if you do an inspection like this. So that was a mistake on my part. Otherwise, it's not too bad. Thanks for watching.